What's up YouTube, my name is JT, and today I ended up getting second place at the Gamers Heaven 1K Elestrals event with a deck I like to call Banlist Turbo. So if you guys haven't been keeping up with Elestrals recently, the most recent Forbidden Limitless update came out about a week ago, and it limited a whole suite of cards that nerfed the top decks of Thunder and Earth Nexus, and I decided that it didn't do enough, so I wanted to play both decks today, trying to play as many of the banned cards or the limited cards as possible and see how it went. Admittedly, I did make this list at about 2 a.m. last night. I didn't do any testing. It was all based off of theory, and the deck fucking sucked. But it did get me second place, so I'm going to do a deck profile for it. Starting off with the Earth cards, we're playing banned or limited cards number 1 and semi-limited cards number 2. These cards being hit really didn't do anything to the deck. I drew them all day. It didn't really matter. These cards are definitely much less broken now that you don't have access to them as often, but seeing them basically still wins you the game like immediately. So, and for the rest of the Earth cards, we are playing triple copies of Mudlet, as well as 2 copies of Mustation and 1 copy of Rummagem. This is just basically just to get your guy count up. You do want to play as many of the Earth guys as you can in this deck, just to see some more guys. 3 Mudlet is kind of a little too much, I think, in this deck, but I did want to play the 3rd one specifically because of the counter rune suite that we're playing. And then these cards were kind of like fine. The Rummagem, I'm still not convinced on. Obviously, the idea is that because you are playing less copies of Echolinks and Viscerus, you want to see them more often, so Rummagem is basically just another copy of those cards. I'm not too convinced on it, but I do think if I were to test this a little bit more, I think I would consider cutting this card, but it was fine today for sure. Next up for the Thunder cards, obviously we're playing Triple Rabbit and then the one of Elichik. You still definitely want to play this card to get access to your Divines. So hitting it to 1, I still don't agree with the hit, but it is what it is. I drew it a lot today. Obviously, Rabbit is the best card in the game. And then kind of as like a supplementary engine for the deck, just to get our guy counts up, we are playing the Water engine. I think a lot of people think with the hits on the ban list that these kind of small water packages, sometimes including things like Foamy or Moose Station, are going to be kind of standard in the format. So I definitely wanted to throw them in. They were good cards. I definitely think going forward, if I want to test this deck, I might try swapping these out for some more Earth cards just to play heavier into the package. But the theory behind these guys just being 5s good beaters is nice because now that you don't have as much access to Demeter in this deck, you definitely have a little bit tougher of a time hitting over big targets. So you want to play some big guys by yourself. And these guys definitely fit the bill for trying to get over those big targets. So I definitely enjoyed them for sure. Playing 18 guys in the main deck, I definitely think that number is probably around the sweet spot for this format. You want to stay around the 17 to 20 guy range in this format. Moving on to the runes, we're playing actually 1 copy of both of the limited Divines, 1 Demeter and 1 Zeus. They basically do the same thing. Limiting these cards basically just turned it into now we just play both, and it's basically like playing the same deck as before because most of the decks were just playing 2 copies of Demeter or 2 copies of Zeus anyway. So playing the 1 and 1 is fine. It also has a lot of synergy with Altar and stuff. You definitely like to have seeing both, and like I said, now that like with the hits, I think people are starting to realize that Battle is one of the most popular ways to out Elestrals in this game, and these 2 cards just kind of help you win Battle every single time. So I definitely think having access to these cards are very good. In addition, we're also playing 2 copies of Full White Forest for the same reason. It makes your guys bigger, and it's also another Nexus bank for your stuff like Echolinks. Definitely good to have. 1 of Earthquake, limited card number 7 in this list. Now we're going to move on to the counter runes. The other engine that we're playing is the small Argo engine, along with 1 Scythe of Demeter and 1 Necklace of Harmonia. This is just kind of gets you to your Nexus banks now that you don't have as much access to them as you did before. It just helps you, like I said, also win Battle, because Battle is the most popular way to out Elestrals in the game right now. So ensuring that you can always win Battle is very nice, and also give you your extra Nexus banks. Definitely helps this deck out a lot. Scythe of Demeter is absolutely broken as well, just being able to heal your cards, or heal back your spirits, and also give your guys a defense boost, which gives you like a way to activate Argo when you have only defense position guys. Definitely a very good card. I was very happy with how the Argos performed. For the 3 runes, we're playing triple copies of Altar of Stars. This might seem a little bit weird because we don't have access to the good Nexus banks as much anymore, but I definitely wanted to play 3 of this card because I think this card is very powerful in this format, and I always felt like the more times I see this card throughout the game, the better position I am in. As long as I can see those Nexus banks, obviously. I definitely think this card is very, very good in all situations of the game, whether you're winning or losing, and it can just kind of end games on the spot by itself. This is also the reason that we're playing the Zeus in the main deck and the 3rd Mudlet, just to give us more advantageous targets for the Altar of Stars. But I was definitely very happy with this card for sure. The rest of the counter lineup is pretty standard, playing triple copies of Gorgon Gaze, 2 copies of Shield Achilles, and 2 copies of Tsunami in the main deck. Very standard. It puts us up to 12 counter runes in this deck, including the Argos, which I definitely think is probably the sweet spot for this format. I think now with the hits on the limited list, the way the format is going to shake up is that counter runes are going to be king for this format. So I definitely think you want to probably stay at the minimum 12 counter runes. Anything lower that is getting a little bit risky, I think.
Mr. Speed, I have a question.
What's up?
Why does one of your Gorgon's Gazes look different?
It's because I'm poor. And if I won today, this would have been the 3rd full art, but unfortunately, Dymax took me out to dry today. And it's because I didn't see that many copies of this card. Triple copies of Ambrosia, standard, obviously. That is it for the main deck. Quick breakdown on the Spirit deck. Pretty standard, I think. We're playing 11 Terratlas. We're playing 4 copies of Leviathan, 4 Zaptor, and then 1 of Fleur Mine for the Cryoblast on the side, as well as just play around opponent's Cryoblast, which I think is fine. I think the biggest thing that I would change with this counter rune suite is you absolutely need to up the count of Zaptors, especially if you're going to play the Zeus with the Altar and stuff. I think 4 is way too few, just because since you only have access to the 1 Zeus now, you kind of want to get the max value out of it, and at least enchant it with the minimum like 3, 4 maybe, but like at least 3. But frequently, like if you're going through a Rabbit and Elichick, you only have 2 left to enchant on the Zeus, which I think is just far too low, and it kind of doesn't get the full value out of the Zeus. So I definitely think in the future I would cut at least 1 of the Terratlas for another Zaptor going forward. But other than that, I think the Spirit math is pretty fine. And running out with the side deck, we're playing 3 copies of Spectrus inside, as long as 2 Lunar Spirits to go with it. Sorry, Trish. I think this card is really, really good in the format, specifically because a lot of people are opting to play that water package. Galaxy is king in this format. A lot of lists will be playing Galaxy, and this card being an easy out to Galaxy is definitely very good for this format. It didn't actually come up today because I don't think anybody summoned Galaxy against me, and if they did, I didn't see it. So it didn't actually come up all too often today, but I think the theory behind it does make sense.
Galaxy only
2 Boombat, just because I do think Wasp Ivy is still a real deck, and I want to have as many outs to that card as possible. Also, just other kind of Towers decks. Having more removal definitely is something that you want to have. This also would have came up in one of my rounds against Thunder. My opponent summoned Sonicor against me, and I didn't draw this. If I did draw it, it would have been a lot better. But just for like those Towers decks, those tough to out cards, just having more removal options in the deck definitely helps. And then the MVP of the side deck, the one of the man, the myth, the legend, Cryspore. I am the firmest believer in this card in Earth. I think Earth is sorely missing a big boss now that the hits have kind of toned down the power level of the deck. So I definitely think you need a bigger payoff for the deck going forward, and Cryspore kind of fits the bill. Like I said, removal is king. So having any kind of card that gives you the 1-for-1 outstanding removal without having to go to battle is very good. So this card I definitely think is something to build around. Going forward, if I was playing this deck, honestly, I think I would main deck this card. It came up in finals and it kind of was just an asshole on the board for a bunch of turns. Unfortunately, it was kind of later in the game, and I was kind of getting outpaced in resources, so it ended up didn't winning the game. But it did put up like a really good fight, and I was really actually proud with how this card worked in the deck. So I definitely like playing this card in Earth for sure. We're also playing 3 cards plays of Cryo Blast, more removal cards. This didn't end up not coming in today, but I definitely think it is good for the format just because we've kind of moved away from the Stadium Wars now. Now that Race to the Top is kind of non-existent in the format. So a lot of the 2 defense guys can't really buff up past this. So playing into any deck that is playing a lot of 2 defense or lower guys, I definitely think this is very good for the format. And then rounding out, we're playing the 3rd copy of Shield as well as 3 copies of PTA. The 3rd Shield is mostly for like the tracking matchups or anything where Tsunami isn't good. And then the 3 PTA on the side is exclusively for going first into decks where Argo isn't good. This is like the easiest card to slot in for the Argo package. I really don't like this card. A lot of people will wonder why this card isn't in the main deck. I am like PTA's #1 hater right now. I just feel like the card is really only good in situations where you're already winning the game. And while yes, it will more likely than not win you the game if you use it in a winning position or in an early game position, I just absolutely despise you drawing into this card later in the game. And I feel like in this deck specifically, Argo largely does the same thing. This card also has like anti-synergy with Argo because if you're playing an Argo, you don't want to PTA something to make it smaller because you want them to attack into you. So if you're making it smaller to the point where they can't attack over you safely, then that kind of defeats the purpose of playing the Argo. So I don't like having the anti-synergy of PTA and Argo in the same deck, which is why this only ever comes in when I side out the Argos going first specifically. So it did come up a couple times and it was like fine in that scenario, but I definitely don't think this card is main deck worthy in any list that is playing Argo. And yeah, that pretty much rounds out the list. Like I said, I didn't really do any testing on this list. This is basically all theory, and it performed well enough to get me second at this event. I definitely think you would have to test this further. But I do like the idea of playing the Earth and the Thunder cards together because I do think that those decks are still very, very powerful even with the limits. And I think that you can go forward in this format and see a lot of success with those 2 decks. So thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate everybody staying tuned. Fuck. I appreciate everybody watching. Make sure to leave a like and a comment on the video and stay subscribed for more Elestrals videos in the future. Peace.